Okay, well, I'm going to do this short video here of the Lynx carbon fiber frame. Excuse my voice, got kind of a cold going on here. Um, Basically, when I first saw the frame, I saw comments about weight, and I was a little concerned about it myself. It only weighs 16.7 grams. Now, that may seem like a lot to some, but this is already in a Lynx frame. This one here is in a stock frame. The only difference between these two ships right here is this is in the Lynx frame with a micro heli 7500 kV motor and a fiberglass canopy. This one's this copter's all the same components, but in a stock frame, stock motor, and stock canopy. And the frame itself weighs 16.7 grams. I must say, they put a lot of thought into this, and I think it was smart on Lynx's part to wait for all the other aftermarket folks to do their frames and then do theirs based on all the comments and stuff they saw from on the other products. So basically, it comes together like this, and you get a bunch of extra screws and a battery strap for your battery, for the battery tray, and then you get some Velcro for the battery tray, and you get a red pad that cushions the board on the bottom tray. The bottom tray being right here, so you can use the red stuff down there just as a vibration pad. That's what I did, and as you can see here, it's just held on by a double-sided Velcro strap, and it's mounted on that pad. Basically, when you get it, the first thing you'd want to do probably is go through and Loctite everything. Well, you want to hold off on that at first. The one thing you want to do is remove the top bearing block. Remove the top bearing block because you're going to need that off, or at least hinged up, but I remove it to get this elevator servo tray out, so you can mount the elevator servo on this tray, put it back in, then put the bearing block back in. Make sure any screws that are going to be blocked by the servo down here get Loctited first. Anything that's going to be blocked by the servo itself. So remove the top bearing block, mount your servo to your servo tray, and there's 4 screws on the back of the servo tray that go into plastic that hold these mounts for your servos. Later on, a kit's going to come out where these will unscrew, these will come off, and mounts will go on for rotary servos, I believe. Anyway, you want to make sure those are tight, because once it's all together, it's hard to get to them, because your cyclic servos will be in the way. Also, on the very bottom of the, it's real hard to see, but on the very bottom of the top bearing block, there's 3 special screws, and they're straight edge screws, standard screws. Those need to be taken out and Loctited. So while you have the bearing block out to put the elevator servo in, that's probably a good time to tighten those screws down, those 3 screws. There's also 3 screws at the bottom of the bottom bearing block that you want to take out and Loctite down. And one of the first things I did is you can remove the 4 screws, 2 on each side, remove the bottom battery tray, because it's going to be in your way. And when you put your motor in, I would say to design the tray and the holes a little bit different down here in the pattern, because with the tray in, it's almost impossible to get to the motor screws to adjust them. Other than that, I don't have any complaints about the frame. I really like it. It's well made. It's sturdy. Of course, I haven't crash tested it yet, and I hope that's quite a ways down the road. It's got that one has many flights on it so far, and no crashes yet. Then once you have the elevator servo mounted, then you can start going along. You put the bearing block back in, start going along and Loctiting all your screws. The other thing I would hold off on till the end is the battery tray, these 4 screws. I would save those for the last, as well as the bottom tray, because when you're doing your wiring, it's nice to be able to pull this off with 4 screws to be able to get in there and get your wires and ride them however which way you want to do it. But anyway, take this off, set it aside, don't lose the screws, because they don't give you many spare screws with this thing. Also in the very back here, there's 2 screws in the very back of the upper bearing block. Those are for a rear anti-rotation guide. If you're going to use the side rotation guide like I did on the right side, you're not going to use those. Take those out. They're loose. Take them out and put them in your spare screw bag. Also in the kit, they give you the hardware for your anti-rotation bracket, and you're going to need to replace 2 screws over here in order to do that, longer ones. So that's another reason you wait until you're done to Loctite the upper bearing block up here, because if you Loctite those in, then you got to take them back out and put in the longer screws for your anti-rotation bracket. Okay, and there's 4 screws. There's 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's your B bearing block right there. Okay, when you stick your boom in there, it's designed for the Lynx boom. This is a TBSR replica with a full Lynx tail, bearing block, quad bearing tail box, slider, the whole 9 yards. Just a complete Lynx tail. But anyway, it goes all the way in and seats against this bearing block right here. Okay, the tail box goes on the boom all the way and lock it down. Put it in and run your shaft through the bearing, of course, and just you can tighten down the 2 back ones. I would suggest tightening that down right away. The boom will still be able to be moved if you use a little force. It doesn't really lock the boom down until you tighten the front 2, followed by the rear 2. So all 4 have to be locked down and tight in order to keep the boom in place. Now, once your cyclic servos are on there, these front screws for the boom mount won't be accessible. They're behind the servo. So go ahead and tighten those down first off. These will be accessible later on, but I would go ahead once you put your boom in there, obviously. But once the boom's in there and your A and B gears in, you can twist the shaft and it'll just spin just as free as can be. I mean, just smooth as glass. You can just take it and just twist it and it'll spin. There's no mesh adjustment. It's plug and play with metal or plastic gears. This bird's got plastic gears in it, and they've got over 50 flights on them, and they're still in perfect condition, no problems. But again, and the nice thing about this is it's easy to get to this bearing block to oil it to lube it once it's together. Now, there's a lot of room in here compared to stock for the AB gear assembly. But what I did and found pretty easy is I turned it upside down. Okay, and the shaft's already in with the B gear on it. Remember to keep it tilted back a little bit so your B gear doesn't fall off. What you want to do is put your B gear in and mesh it with your, put your A gear in and mesh it with your B gear and get it lined up. Then I slid the shaft in from underneath. And of course, once the shaft's in, the B and A gear can't go anywhere. And then I turn it over and put my screws, my lock screw into the A gear through the shaft. And then it's done. You can just spin the thing and it spins like crazy. It's really, really smooth. I was impressed. I was kind of shocked that there's no mesh adjustment. So it worked out real well for me. I know others have this frame already. They've already done this. And I'm not saying my way is right, wrong, or indifferent. Everybody has their own way of doing things. So I'm just pointing out what was easiest for me and how it worked out for me. Now be careful with your servos. There's the manual you can download off Lynx's site. It gives a complete breakdown of everything. But just be careful mounting your servos because they're going into plastic, just like on the stock frame. Again, now when you put your main gear on, there's one screw here on the bottom that sticks lower than anything else. We have a habit of pushing the main gear all the way on as far as we can to where it seats the bearing, and then we try to cram it on a little bit more. There's no need to do that, because when I first put the shaft in and the main gear and all that, I went to spin it again and was catching on something. I thought there was a mesh issue somewhere in the drivetrain. I got to looking closer, and I pushed that gear on just a micron too far, and that screw was hitting the spokes on the main gear. All I had to do is take my thumb and just back that main gear out just a tiny bit, and it cleared that screw just fine. And as you can see, there's plenty sticking out underneath the gear, and it's fine. It's caused no issues. But if you really cram that main gear up in there, that little screw's going to hit. And it took me a little bit to catch on to that and figure out it wasn't the drivetrain or the mesh, because it was smoother before. But there you have it. You have the Lynx carbon fiber chassis frame. The boom mount is really slick. Like I say, it's plug and play. There's no mesh adjustment. At least there was none for me, because I'm using the TBS replica boom and the full Lynx CNC tail box, the quad bearing tail box. And I tell you, it's smooth, it's quiet, there's no vibrations at all. I've had absolutely no issues with the ship whatsoever. It's got many flights on it. This was going to be torn down tomorrow and built onto this frame. So, that's about it. I'm impressed with it. I would recommend it. I'm not saying the others are any better or any worse. I'm just telling you my experiences with the Lynx frame. You have any questions, go ahead and post them to the thread, and I'll try to get back to you. But it's a nice little frame. I think Spooner, one of the Hella Freak members on here, just got through converting his over, and I think, and so maybe Spooner will chime in and tell you his experiences, and maybe anything different he did that what I'm talking about here. But there you have it. There's the Lynx carbon fiber frame, and it's going to go with that shipped here in just a little bit. So no fancy video here. I just want to kind of go over it real quick for some that might not know and some of the newer folks. But that's it. Fire Dude here. Thanks for watching.